This is Chick2Chick Uncut, raw and unfiltered.
It's Valentine's Day and love is in the air and online. And people go on those dating apps all the time looking for love, looking for someone to spend their life with. The problem, that handsome dude, that gorgeous gal, they can be scams. Yeah, these romance scams don't just leave you with a broken heart. They're leaving their victims broke, robbing Americans of $1 billion every year, $4 billion worldwide. I want you to check this out. Do you see this brochure? It's called How to Make a White Woman Fall in Love with You in Online Chat. This brochure is legit. It was produced in Nigeria, where many of these scams originate. And we're going to talk about this. We're also going to talk to a woman who lost thousands to a love interest online who happened to be fake. My guest today, Mary Bach, she is a consumer advocate with AARP Pennsylvania, and Kate Kleinert, who was a victim of romance scams. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Mary, let's start with you. Talk to me about these romance scams, how they work, and all that good stuff.
Well, first, Flora, thank you so much for having me. And romance scams take more money from individuals than any other type of scam. And according to the FTC, approximately 83% of the victims, that is the reported victims of romance scams, are actually women. And it's very disappointing as a woman to be able to say that. But romance scams truly are everywhere. And we need to know the red flags, what to watch for. So in fact, we are not victimized. It's just too easy these days.
You said a key word. You said 83% of the victims are women, the ones that are reported.
That's right.
A lot of people don't even report this. Why not?
It's an extremely underreported scam because people are embarrassed. They don't want their family members or their friends to know that they might have succumbed to such a situation, that they may have sent money. And as older people, we certainly want to keep our independence. We want to continue to live on our own. And if our family members start to think that we're losing it or that we're sending money, we've become vulnerable in some way, then they are much more likely to want to intervene, and we may lose our independence in those circumstances, and nobody wants that to happen. So people simply don't report. Again, they just may be too embarrassed to let anybody know, so they just don't tell anybody. And it may be that men simply don't tell anybody at all because they are concerned about the situation.
Yeah, I would imagine it's very embarrassing. So how does this whole thing work? And everything is online now, online dating and match services and all this other nonsense. How does it work?
Well, and even the legitimate match type services, these dating sites will say that as many as 1/3 of the profiles on those sites are in fact fake. They try to control it as best they can, but the scammers are extremely good at what they do. They actually take photographs from the internet. Lots of people put all kinds of photographs on a site like Facebook or the various social media sites. And the scammers co-opt those photographs. They pretend to be someone they are not. They are truly imposters. And they then set up a profile using a legitimate photograph from someone. And then they pretend to be simply somebody that they're not. They're very often pretending to be a doctor, someone who is abroad. They may be in the armed services. They may be on an oil rig out in the ocean. But more often than not, they are out of the country. They typically say that they don't have access to their money, and they lure you in by telling you that they are in love with you. They groom the victim sometimes even for weeks or months before they profess love. They gain your trust. And in many of these situations, it really is all about trust. They form, or they have you form, an emotional bond with them. And you get so caught up in that emotion that you lose sight of the fact that these people are, in fact, scammers. There are boiler rooms filled with young men, primarily in Nigeria, Myanmar, Ghana are three of the main countries where these scams originate. And you just showed what's an actual primer that the scammers use. And it's just a template of the kinds of questions that they use, what they say to their purported victims, how they get, again, people so caught up in the emotion of the moment that they lose sight of the fact that this is not right, or they just don't recognize the red flags as they occur. And ultimately, it's all about money. The scammer is finally going to ask for money. Sometimes it's very quick, other times it takes a while, but they are going to ask then for gift cards because, or some type of cryptocurrency now, because they need payment for some type of emergency. They may have had a bad business dealing, or they simply want a plane ticket to come see you. And so they need money. They say they don't have access to their own funds, again, for a variety of reasons, because they're abroad. And so they ask you for money. And at that point, you trust them. You may even be in love with them, you think. And so you're very willing to send money because, again, you have that bond.
I have to share something that happened. It really happened to me. You know, some really handsome dude was sending me messages on Facebook. I knew that it was a scam, but I was having fun with him, and he's telling me he's in love with me. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I jokingly said to a friend of mine, Andrea, I said, Andrea, look at this good looking dude who's messaging me. And she goes, I know him. And I go, what? She goes, I know him. She goes, that's Paul Hollywood from the British Bake Off. And I go, what? And so we did, you know, a little investigating. Long story short, you know, whoever it was, like, was blatant, stole Paul Hollywood's photo, who's from the British Bake Off. And we just a few clicks, and we found out it was some teenager in Nigeria. And I messaged him and I said, I don't understand. You say you're this guy, but when I clicked, you're this person. So who are you? Boom, just like that, he blocked me. So
Right.
It really happened to me. And I want to talk to you about this brochure. This I found to be unbelievable. A step-by-step telling you how to have a white woman fall in love with you from online chat. And I just have to read a little bit about that. You shared this with me. And this is legit, right? This is a legitimate.
Totally. Absolutely.
This is what they use to train these folks in Nigeria. When it comes to chatting white ladies up, you have to understand that they are different from Nigerian ladies. Their country is different. What they like is different. What turns them on is different. What makes them fall in love is different as well. Follow the things in this book. You will understand that your client, you will understand her and get her to fall head over heels in love with you. How do you get these ladies to love you? I mean, this is unbelievable. Page after page after page, what to say, how to respond. Mary, this is like a cottage industry. This is unbelievable.
It is big business for these countries. And the scammers can make a lot more money scamming people, particularly people in the United States, out of their money than they would if they had just a regular job. And so because it's lucrative, they know they're not going to get caught. the government actually sanctions scamming. And so they simply take our money to the bank. They, again, lure someone in with a lot of sweet talk, sweet nothings based on what they're taught to say. And they will very quickly get someone off of the social media page, Facebook, for example, and get them onto an app that cannot be traced. And then they have kind of a private way of communicating with their victim.
Unbelievable. I mentioned a figure at the start of this podcast, $1 billion Americans ripped off, $4 billion worldwide. I want to bring Kate into the conversation now. Kate, you were a victim of these romance scams. Tell us what happened to you.
Well, mine occurred during the lockdown of the pandemic, and I do believe that that had something to do with it, because up until that time, I never, ever accepted a friend request from someone I didn't know on Facebook. And I wish I knew what it was about that particular day. Maybe I was having a bad day. Maybe I was having a great day. And I got pictures of this very handsome man dressed like a doctor with his white coat, other photos with him in scrubs. So he was not only a doctor, but a surgeon. So that's extra points there. And he said he had read my profile, and that's key right there. They study your profile ahead of time. So he knew my likes and dislikes, what TV shows I watched, what books I read, what movies I'd been to, what hobbies I liked. And of course, he memorized all of that before he got in touch. And so he had all of the same kind of hobbies and whatnot as me. For whatever reason, I hit the accept button for the friendship. And within a few days, he had asked me to download WhatsApp so that we could speak to each other. And of course, it's untraceable. But I was widowed about 12 years at that point, was not looking for any romance. But I have to tell you, with talking to this man on the phone, it was nice. It felt good to talk to a man again. I hadn't had conversations like that since my husband had passed away. Not just everyday conversations. And every night he would call me and say, "How was your day, honey?" And I can't tell you what that meant. It was wonderful. It reminded me how nice it was to have someone in my life. I thought I was doing very well, thank you, without someone, but having that suddenly there made all the difference. And of course, he was very romantic right away. And I kept pushing back about that because I was not looking. I had not met him. I didn't want to hear "I love you, baby" from someone I hadn't even met yet, But we talked, and the phone calls increased gradually. There were 2 phone calls a day, 3 phone calls. We were up to 6 or 7 phone calls, sometimes very short, but, I just wanted to say I love you. I just wanted to say good night. It was all stuff that made me feel good. He was supposed to be a surgeon working a contract for the UN and stationed in Iraq, which was very dangerous. And that's why he could not have any access to his money, could not do a face-to-face. That's also another part. They never do a face-to-face call, FaceTime or Zoom or anything like that, because obviously they don't want you to see their real face. But I got pictures almost every day. The man that he had targeted to steal the pictures from is very prolific out there on X and what have you. He's a real person, successful plastic surgeon in South America. So there's tons of pictures of him out there. So I was getting them all the time, and it just made it very real for me.
So wait a minute. I've got to, did you ever say, let's FaceTime? I want to see you. What was the excuse?
Before I ever brought it up, he said, "I cannot do that. We cannot do any kind of FaceTime because it's so dangerous here. I'm out in the field doing field surgery on soldiers. There's lots of bad guys around who just would love to take me down, whatever, because I'm here doing something good. what do I know about Iraq? So, I believed these stories that he said.
So you're chatting. He's telling you he loves you. You've never seen him. It's making you feel good. He's sucking you in.
Mm-hmm.
When did he start asking you for money? And why would a surgeon need your money?
Well, it was several months before he asked for money. And he had also told me that he had 2 young children. Now, he told me in the beginning he was my age. And when I asked him, what year were you born? Because you look a lot younger than me. He couldn't answer. And whenever I pushed with a question, he'd say,
he didn't know what year he was born.
No, he said, oh, there goes my beeper. They want me in surgery. Call you back. And then he would figure it out and call me back, And one day I did say to him, how long did it take you to figure out the year? Did you have to count on your fingers exactly what year I was born and figure that out? But supposedly had these 2 children because he was married to a much younger woman who had passed away.
Of course.
So the 2 children were in a boarding school in England, and they wanted to call me mom. Now, I'm sure that he took that information or figured that out from my profile. I did not have pictures of grown children or any grandchildren. So he surmised correctly, my husband and I were never able to have children. So him telling me his children wanted to call me mom, I waited all my life to hear someone call me mom. So that
really was getting to your heart.
Oh, he did his homework. He did his homework.
Oh, by the way, Kate, when you said he waited a few months, that's in the booklet too. You don't ask for money. I read this whole thing, and that's part of the scam. So he asks you for money after a couple of months. And why would a surgeon need your money? Explain that to me.
He could not have access to his money because it was dangerous. Someone from there could follow that trail and what have you, And it was actually for his daughter. His daughter supposedly got her first period and was scared to death. She was in England. Don't tell my dad this happened to me. And she needed money to go get supplies. Well, never having been a mother, that really touched my heart. Like, oh, this poor kid, she's alone. So, of course, I wanted to help her. And he told me to go get a gift card for $100 and send her pictures of the front and back. Because I said, I'm outside of Philadelphia. She's in England. How is me buying a gift card going to help her by the time it gets mailed there? Oh, no, just take pictures of the front and back. And I said, well, you can't do that here. You can't take pictures of a gift card and walk into a store with pictures. But he said, oh, no, it'll work. So I did it and sent it. And before I got up, I checked the balance of the card. It was already at zero.
They had gone.
Already snatched the money off of the card.
So it started
escalated
with one gift card. It escalated. Kate, I'm afraid to ask you, how many gift cards did you end up sending this dude, and what was the final total?
I don't remember how many exact number of cards because we did switch off to some cryptocurrency later on, but the total amount of money that I sent him was $39,000. And it was all that I had. Because I'm sure if I had more,
say that again. How much? How much did you?
$39,000.
And he wiped you out.
He did, but if someone had asked me, would you ever send money to someone you never met? I would have laughed, but here I was doing it. And he sent me a link to his bank account so that I could see he had money in the bank and would pay me back the very minute he got to Philadelphia. Now, of course, you've got to think, well, why doesn't he just access his own money rather than, what have you? The website that he sent me to, and I have learned, now, do not click on any link that someone sends you like that. It was supposed to be Bank of America, and it was pristine. It was perfect. Looked like the Bank of America had all their banners, their ads, everything. He gave me his sign-on and his password, and I accessed his account.
And how much
showed
money?
A balance of a little over $2 million.
So he has $2 million in this bank account, but he's asking you
Yes.
to send him gift cards and then cryptocurrency. And he was
Yes.
going to pay you back.
Every cent. Yep.
And
Yep.
you got how much of that money back?
Oh, zero. Yes.
Kate, how did this whole charade end? What happened?
Well, he wanted to come to see me, wanted to come marry me.
Oh,
And, after a while, getting 6 or 7 phone calls a day from someone talking so much, I have to admit, I started having feelings for him, which is hard to admit. It's hard to say because it's embarrassing to say, hey, I fell in love with someone I never met. But we talked for hours, I felt like I knew him and he wanted to come here and he was sending me out to look at houses, look at school districts for the children. The children never called me, but they emailed me every day. Hi, Mom,
you
we
think
can't
it
wait
was a child
Never.
emailing you. You
Yes.
don't really know
Yeah.
who was
Oh,
emailing you.
no. And I'm sure it was not any children, but they wrote like they were children and calling me mom. And, we love you, Mom. We're so happy that you're making Dad happy. We can't wait to be a family. The whole business. He was supposed to be here on December the 10th at 10 o'clock at night. I waited, of course, all night for the phone call. At that point, I lived 2 miles away from the Philadelphia airport, and I was going to go pick him up. He was supposed to call me when he landed, was on his way through customs, what have you. And of course, the call never came. So I'm up all night, walking up and down, all dressed up to the nines, waiting to go change my life by meeting this man. And in the morning at 8 a.m., another man called me and said he was Tony's lawyer. And that when Tony went through the baggage claim, the drug sniffing dog indicated that there were drugs in his bag. And Tony was arrested. Now, coming from Iraq, I'm thinking, not my Tony. He would never put drugs in his bag and come here. It had to be somebody, how many people touched his bag between there and here? But now they needed bail money to get him out of jail. And the lawyer asked me for $20,000. And all I could do was cry because I waited all this time for him. He's here. He's 2 miles away in Philadelphia. And they want $20,000. I didn't have $20 to my name at that point. And I'm afraid to think if I had $20,000, what I would have done.
Holy smokes. So you tell this lawyer now, I don't have $20,000.
Right.
Now what happened?
He said, don't you love him? Don't you want to get him out of that jail? He's within 2 miles away from you. Don't you want to see him? Blah, 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 So he told me to sell my life insurance policy to get the money. My life insurance is set up to bury me because I don't have children, and my husband is gone. So there's no one to plan my funeral. So, and he didn't understand that. And he said, well, then you'll have to sell your car. My car is leased. I can't sell my car.
You had nothing. And he wouldn't stop. He just kept coming at you.
Remortgage the house. And I said, but I've never done that. But I know you don't walk into the bank at 2 o'clock and walk out at 3 o'clock with a check in your hand. That mortgaging the house takes a while. And that's not going to help Tony. Well, you'll have to go to your family. I said, oh, no. I've got 3 sisters. There's no way I'm going to go to them and say, hey, I'm engaged. You haven't met him. But that's okay. I haven't met him either. And, he's here to visit me and we're going to get married. But he's in jail right now and I just need $20,000. So how about it?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
My sisters love me, but not $20,000 worth.
So how did this love affair, and I'm sure the engagement is off now, correct? How did this whole escapade end?
Although he did send me a picture of the ring he was going to give me when he got here. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Great.
Now, how he got that when he was in Iraq in the field, I have no idea. But the lawyer kept pushing and really bullying me. And I said, well, if he's 2 miles away, he's in jail here. At least while we work this out, get me on the visitors list. Oh, no, madam. No, no. Only the lawyer is allowed in to visit. That was the point it started to unravel for me because I knew that wasn't true. I knew that wasn't true.
So how did you get out of this? And when did it finally click that you'd been scammed?
Well, it started with that remark. And the more he pushed, the more I pushed back. And I thought my only leverage here is get me on the list, the visitors list, and then we'll talk about the $20,000. You know, you do your part and I'll see where I can get this. And he said, Tony's been transferred.
It's a miracle.
Transferred where? Oklahoma. All bets are off. Who is in prison in Philadelphia and gets transferred to Oklahoma? That's the one spot where they did not do their homework. They didn't know that being in Philadelphia and then you wouldn't get transferred to Oklahoma. And honestly, that's when it became very clear to me. And then Tony started calling me, I guess because the lawyer must have said, man, I can't push her over. She's not going for this. So Tony would call and I'd say, how can you call me from prison like this? I'm a doctor. I said, that doesn't hold water here, bud. You know, you're not the only doctor in jail, believe me. Well, I have privileges. I said, no. So I stopped taking any of the phone calls. They continued to call me for months after, but I did not answer anymore. I sat and cried because as devastating as losing all of my money was, breaking my heart was worse.
Because you thought this guy was legit. You thought you were going to get married. You thought you were starting a new life. You thought you were going to be a mom for the first time. And this was all a scam.
Yeah. And I was so embarrassed that I would have fallen for it. And more so that I opened myself up and accepted his love and gave it back. You know, how could I do that to someone who was scamming me?
What did you do at that point? Did you get in touch with somebody? Did you, I don't know. I think I would have thrown up to think that I'd lost $40,000. I would have thrown up, cried my eyes out. But then, I'm sorry, I would have been angry as hell.
I was, but the heartbreak was so much worse. I mean, I was mourning this relationship, mourning what I thought. I had bought those kids Christmas presents and they were sitting in the living room. I had to look at them every day. I mean, when I finally went, I went hook, line, and sinker and just was so excited about this whole new life and how wonderful it was going to be. I forgot how great it felt to be in love. You know, it was nice. It really added a lot to my life that I didn't even realize was missing at the time.
They found a vulnerable soul in you, and he played on your emotions. I'm so sorry you went through that. Did you finally speak up to somebody and tell somebody what happened? What did you do?
Well, a friend, you know, remember, we're still on the lockdown, so there was no visiting family or what have you. My girlfriend, she called me every night just to talk, and she kept saying to me, there's something really off about your voice. You sound so sad. Do you want to talk? No. You know, she called me the next night. Are you sure you're okay? You sound like you've been crying. No, I'm fine. I'm fine, you know. So it took about 2 weeks of her constantly saying, there is something off, girlfriend, you know, and I finally, you know, did the I Love Lucy, you know, just cried and spilled the story. And she said, you have to call the police. Like, oh no, no way. But she finally talked me into it and I called the local police and they never answered and never came and visited me or anything. She told me, okay, well now you need to call the state police. And I did that. It took several days for me to get my courage up to do that because now I've got to face another stranger and tell them I've done this, sent this money to somebody I don't know. And I got a woman when I called the state police and I was so relieved because I thought it'll be much easier telling a woman my story. And I started and she said, wait, why are you calling here? there's no crime here. And I'm crying, I'm very vulnerable then. I'm crying and crying, saying, but he said he was going to pay me back as soon as he got here. And I believed him. And she said, and you willingly gave him that money, hun.
Oh,
yes.
not
yes.
nice.
No, if I could have gone through the phone, I'd be in jail now for assault.
Choking her with both hands.
Yes. So honestly, it wasn't until I called AARP's fraud line that I got someone who was sympathetic and listened and said, yes, it is a crime, and at the end of the conversation, this man said to me, the volunteer on the fraud line said, that hammer you have in your hand, hitting yourself over the head with, it's time to put it down.
Yeah.
And boy, that has stayed with me. That means the world to me because I no longer felt embarrassed. I just felt like I was a victim at that point.
You definitely are a victim, and you're not the first victim. And unfortunately, you're probably not going to be the last victim. I want to bring Mary back into this conversation. Mary, you've been listening to Kate this whole time. I'm sure you have heard this over and over and over again.
We call it a textbook case.
Yeah.
Because it follows the pattern that so many of these situations follow. But Kate is a survivor.
Yeah.
And we need to talk in those terms. And she has come forward to tell her story in an attempt to help others, which she is doing just every day.
Yeah, it's Kate, I hate to say this, but somebody who's listening to this might say, you know what? This woman's not 20 years old. She's not 30 years old. Shouldn't you have known better? I mean, you're a mature woman. You're a smart woman. What's wrong with you, Kate?
Nothing is wrong with me. I was dealing with a crook who had a better hold on the situation than I did. I mean, he certainly is well trained and knew exactly what to say, when to say it, and what have you. And yes, I've learned a lot. I could spout out red flags by the dozens now that I didn't know then. I didn't know I should have closed my profile on Facebook. I had it open for the world, and it said I was a widow. I didn't know that was not a good thing to do. So naturally, these people were coming to me and trying to win me over.
They played with your heart. That's what he did. He played with your heart, and you fell for it. But you were smart enough. I know you lost all that money, and you're probably never going to get it back. But you did the right thing. You called authorities, and then you contacted AARP. Mary, she did what she needed to do. And what would you recommend for people to do who are in this situation?
Well, we have to remember that it's all about our emotions, and we have to try to get our emotions under control. And we need to understand that these criminals, and that's what they are.
Yeah.
Let's use the right terms to, talk about them. These criminals understand psychology. They understand our emotions, and they do anything they can to actually rein us in, so to speak. And we just have to be a step ahead of them. We have to be smarter than them. We need to educate ourselves and educate others. And again, know the red flags. Kate says she understands the red flags now. She did not necessarily when this first started to take place. And then as she endured several months of this emotional roller coaster. And so education is key. A podcast like this is so very important.
Yeah.
And we hope lots of people will watch and learn from it because, again, this can happen to anybody under any circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, they were trying this on me and I knew it was a scam and I was having fun with it. But I know so many people that it's the same story. They're a widow. They're a doctor. They're stationed overseas. I've heard it over and over again. Mary, if somebody has been a victim of this. I mean, the reality is the money's gone. It's gone, and you're probably not going to get it back.
That's right.
Who can they call at AARP? Is there a phone number? Is there a resource online to learn more about this?
The AARP website is aarp.org/fraudwatch network. It's free of charge. You do not have to be a member of AARP or any organization in order to access aarp.org. It's for people of all ages, and there are lots and lots of tools and tips about all kinds of scams, all kinds of criminality on the AARP website. You can also get bi-weekly alerts sent to your smartphone if you text the letters FWN, standing for Fraud Watch Network, to the number 50757. You'll get a message back. Do you want the biweekly alert? Saying all you have to do is respond yes. And then every other week, you'll get the latest iteration of the fraud that AARP is highlighting or talking about. We also urge people, as Kate did, to call our Fraud Watch helpline, and that toll-free telephone number is 877-908-3360. It is manned by volunteers who are very well trained to talk people through whatever criminality has touched their lives. And we also ask people or suggest they report crimes to the Attorney General's office. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's website is attorneygeneral.gov. We also suggest they report to the FTC. But it's so important to say that when you're dealing with gift cards or when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, they cannot be traced.
Yeah.
The money is gone, and you are simply going to have to face facts that regardless of how much money is involved, you are not going to get it back.
So sad. So sad. Kate, as we wrap up this podcast, thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure it's tough to talk about and it's embarrassing, but what's some advice? What advice would you have for somebody who they think they're being scammed, they're not sure, or they were scammed? What would you say to them?
Well, first, there's so much technology now available that people my age are not always familiar with. So if you're receiving pictures of someone who's trying to have a relationship with you, have someone younger in your life do the reverse search on those pictures. You know, whether it's a grandchild, a niece or nephew, or maybe a neighbor if you don't want to involve a family member, someone who can help you do that. Make sure your profile is locked down and not open to the world like mine was. If you're on a dating site, be very careful. As Mary said, more than a third of those profiles are bogus. If you think it's wrong, that something is off somehow, talk to someone that you trust, even at your church, your neighbors or women's group, whatever. Talk to someone, because sometimes just talking it out with someone else makes you see what is really going on. So, but there's help out there not to get your money back. So remember that before you send any. You're not going to get your money back, but there are people out there who can help you. Department of Aging is also another place you could go. But Mary has given us some very good examples of places that are willing to help. You're not alone. You are not alone. There's many people out there who have fallen for this.
Ladies, I cannot thank both of you enough for coming on the podcast. Mary, great advice, great resources. Kate, I'm so sorry you went through this, but I am grateful that you shared your story, and hopefully we can spare somebody else from going through the same, just hearing your story. So thank you both for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Flora.
Thank you so much. Both of these ladies, what an incredible story. It happens all the time. People are really embarrassed, and Kate shared her story, and Mary said that, you know, more than 80% of the time this is happening to women, but it's happening to men as well. Don't suffer in silence. Speak up. Tell somebody what's happening. And if it does happen, please take the necessary steps to report it. And for anybody who is out there looking for love online, just really be careful. Really, really be careful. Do your homework. Again, I had Paul Hollywood coming for me. He told me he was in love with me from the British Bake Off. It was a scam. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chick2Chick USA. That way, every time we come out with a new podcast, you're going to get an alert on your phone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, and we'll be back soon with a new podcast episode.